Polipede works here, coming at you with One Piece, chapter 1078, Escape Limit. So, like always, we aren't going to go over the chapter beat for beat, just some things I found interesting because I feel that's a more concise way of handling these things. And like always, let's talk about our cover story. So, I guess we are coming to the end of the emotionless voyage of German 66, as in volume 33, which is half of 66. Very interesting. Judge and Caesar have made up and now have formed what is called Neo-Nads. So my question is, are the boys going to break into Impel Down and try to recover Queen? That's the big question, because I can't see them not forming this alliance and not trying to get the band back together, with the exception of Vegapunk, of course. But yeah, going on with our chapter, Sussy just explains to Sentamar what's going on, and they just exchange information. Not that exciting. The other weird, I guess, extra scientists that are working in Egghead are just fleeing. Not that big of a deal. We cut back to Frankie being half petrified by S-Snake, along with Lilith and Usopp being completely petrified. It is implied that she stomps on Pythagoras and kills him. He might actually be dead. I mean, this is One Piece, you don't know. But at this juncture in the story, it has been a bit more violent than early One Piece. And then we have a very weird, unconfirmed condition of Edison as we cut back to Nami, Brooke, and Sanji, as Nami's pleading with Edison to stay with her. And then, of course, Brooke turns into a ghost and goes to try to find Vegapunk. Now, here's a very interesting scene, too. S-Shark tries to punch Sanji. Sanji is unfazed by the punch. So one of two things could be happening here. Number one, we have a historic event in which Fishman Karate doesn't work on an individual, which I doubt. Or two, Sanji's just flexing his exoskeleton in a way showing that Judge's inventions surpass Vegapunk's in a weird way, which is a very interesting thought considering the cover story and all that has gone on between Vegapunk and Judge. So, yeah, apparently S-Hawk is out of their line of sight, getting back to Zoro, Luffy, and Lucci's group, right? Here's what's funny about this. Lucci comes to the conclusion that S-Hawk finds this whole confrontation very troublesome, so he's going off to find weaker opponents to pick off first before he then rounds back to the strong opponents. This is the same strategy that Mr. One had way back in Alabasta, where he and Miss Doublefinger were going after Nami first until Zoro intercepted Mr. One. A very similar situation here, in which Zoro is trying to intercept S-Hawk before he can get to the rest of the Straw Hats. And we're bringing it back, boys. Luffy calls Kaku Usopp fantastic, peak, very mint, very good. Thank you, Oda. Oh, I love that joke. Very good. Very good. I was wondering when someone was going to say it. I was wondering. Very good. The Edna's Lobby boys are growing on me again in this chapter, because from 1077 in this, it's really rounding out them as characters and giving them personalities, as opposed to just like weird, stiff Navy men or secret agent men. So I like it. I like it a lot. And then we cut back to just this formal explanation of what is being referred to as the Egghead incident. This incident is considered famous, and we see a shot of Bonnie crying before the memory bubble of Kuma is, I guess, being implied that she's sort of either finished taking in Kuma's story or is digesting it bit by bit, but it's just too much for her to emotionally take because we see her crying. And a very beautiful panel, might I add. Very cool, very cool. So it said that this was the day before the famous Egghead incident, but the story began a few months ago. And then we get a shot back to Mary Joas, and at Mary Joas, someone is speaking from Egghead and telling the higher-ups there that Dr. Vegapunk is investigating the contents of the voice entering. CP5 and later CP7-8 investigated these findings of these reports, but they all ended up missing. None returned back to the government. And then the mysterious person calls again, saying, "I'm speaking from Egghead. Please connect me to the higher-ups." Following the conversation between the 5 Elder Stars and a certain someone, it had become apparent that the genius scientist had betrayed the government. The 5 elders decided to assassinate Dr. Vegapunk soon after. Cypherpole Agent Zero received the mission to set sail, of course, assassinate Vegapunk. However, the 5 elders anticipated retaliation from Vegapunk, seeing as how Egghead Island isn't a defenseless island like O'Hara. You just can't run up there and buster call it, which is why one of them decided to set sail with Kizaru as an escort with requested reinforcements from various branches of the Navy. And we see a bunch of dudes I don't know, and then we see the ever lovely Doll. I wonder, does Doll have Dofru powers? Because I kinda am in the race for her to have the fabled cat fruit model house cat. I would be kind of smitten if she did have the fabled house cat fruit that Marguerite was supposed to have way back in the day. There are some sketches of that. I put that on screen, but yeah. We see this guy with a beard. He looks like the guy from earlier who was at the briefing with Aki Inu when he was sending intel to, I believe, Lucy, telling Lucy to stand down because Luffy was on the island. And then we see this guy with very expensive looking glasses. Kind of reminds me of Mark Deuce from the Ace novel. But yeah, I don't know who this guy with all the chins is. This bald old guy with the thick eyebrows. Very interesting, very strange. But then it's remarked that, however, what unexpectedly appeared was the ship of the Emperor of the Sea, Straw Hat Luffy. Which is, can I just say, it's so nice to see Luffy be introduced as such a major threat. And the appearance of his ship just speaks volumes about how the situation has to change. We have come a long way, boys. It's heartwarming. It really is. What's also very interesting, I don't know if this is a blob or a doodle, but the first flag that we see atop the Straw Hat's ship, the Thousand Sunny, it looks weird. It doesn't look like the flag in the back. Like the flag that's atop the crow's nest, or I think the place that we see Zoro work at most of the time. That flag looks like a weird, like, blob person. It doesn't look like a flag. I don't know what that's about. But yeah, moving on. It said, with such a unforeseen development, the government steadily grew uneasy with the appearance of Straw Hat Luffy. In any case, the outcome of the incident the following day would give the entire world an unthinkable shock. And then we cut back to the Delphi Research Laboratory, and the familiar katonk katonk or kotsun kotsun sound effect is heard. And we see Shaka on the ground bleeding and smoking. So, not good for Vegapunk Shaka. We hear another katonk. Vegapunk asks, "Why are you?" And then we see her, the girl, Vegapunk York, in all her ginormous glory. My goodness. Okay, so I made a short the other day because the thoughts kind of came to me, and then I read the spoilers and I was like, uh-oh. But seeing as I already made the video, I just posted it. It makes a lot of sense for Vegapunk York here to be uncovered as the traitor. And she says this, "Hi, Stella, it's me. I'm going to be a celestial dragon." Vegapunk takes umbrage with this and he says, "What are you on about, York? You've been to Mary Jonas in the past. Why would you want to be such a scummy human being?" And she laughs at him, saying he sounds like Shaka. And we get a very curious shot of York here. But yes, then she says, but guess what? He's dead. It's really confusing, isn't it? With so many Vegapunks around. This world would be way better off with only one of us. Okay. Like I said in the short, it makes a lot of sense for her to be the traitor. You want to know why? Think of all the times we have seen all the Vegapunks so far, right? You know who's not really consulted or even talked to by any other Vegapunk in a serious fashion? York. York does not really have a conversation with anyone. She's only given a request to eat and to poop. Think about that for a second. In going over this chapter, a very interesting series comes to mind. Rick and Morty, right? And I know Rick and Morty's a little cringe nowadays, but in Rick and Morty, there is a citadel with a bunch of versions of Rick. And all these Ricks have the same level of astronomical intelligence, right? Yet, seeing as how this is a society, not every Rick gets to be a big smart guy. Not every Rick gets to be on top. So even though all these men in this place are all the same, and all have the same level of genius intellect, someone has to be the baker, the butcher, the garbage man, you know? And there's a plot point in one episode in which one Rick takes this fact of life to a very obscene of extreme. And this is what I think is playing out here. There is nothing to suggest that Vegapunk York is any less smart than any other Vegapunk. So she could feel heavily slighted that her entire existence in being this super genius is that she only lives to eat and defecate. Imagine that. You have all this potential. You have all this untapped will to do something, presumably. And no one takes you seriously. Not technically even yourself, which would really mess up an individual. Everyone else gets to go off and do all these spectacular things. But no, you are presumably made. This is all hearsay. This doesn't have to be the case. But seeing as how she isn't seen doing anything else, I can only presume the worst. Despite her having this genius intellect, she doesn't get to play with any invention. She doesn't get to do any research. All she does all day is eat, sleep, and defecate. And it's clear that she has ambitions. She has goals because she wants to be a celestial dragon. I think she wants to be a celestial dragon because they have all the power. They have all the money. So without any other Vegapunks around and with her being very eager to comply with any wishes of the government, she can be free to do whatever she wants as a celestial dragon, both not having the status and all the funds. Whereas all the other Vegapunks have constantly complained about funds in the pursuits of their own research. So, yeah, you know, like her motives are understandable. She just wants to be more, and her other selves aren't allowing her to be more. Therefore, get rid of them. So in this situation, I gotta say, Vegapunk should have figured it out sooner, and it's all his fault because he didn't see her for anything else than a stomach and intestines, really. So he can pursue his own selfish endeavors. So he's the villain here, not really York. York is an abused child in this situation. So I have to say, claps to the queen. You have my applause. I don't see her as a villain. This could be simping. I don't blame you for thinking that. But man, she has a very crappy situation, not to make the pun. But yeah, she's in a terrible situation. So for her to betray everybody is terrible, but not unfounded. But we'll see how the story develops. We are on break next week, which is always a sad thing to hear. But I'll be making more content, so stay tuned. And forgot to mention, I do have a Discord, Digital Burrow. The link will be in the description. And yeah, thank you for watching. If you like stuff like this, please feel free to check out my YouTube channel, Polipede Works. And if you like what you see, I would appreciate your subscription. Thank you so much. See you next time.